Hello everyone and welcome to another video review. I'm Rodney Reynolds from 3GameMan.com and today I'm looking at the Phanteks Enthoo Pro Case. The box is very plain, but it does have a lot of information about the product, the name of it on the front, plus a picture on the sides, features and specifications, and there's more specs and features at the back plus pictures. It comes in this plastic case between two pieces of styrofoam, but note that since it is a fairly large and heavy case, well, the styrofoam has snapped on this side, and that's pretty common. I would probably recommend that they use higher quality styrofoam, but the couriers really bang these things about. Now this is the windowed model, and they have protective plastic on each of the windows. They include this accessory box, and in it is this plastic case with all the screws and bolts and everything that you're going to need to install the drives and other gear. You've got cable ties as well as Velcro ties for organizing the cables, a reservoir bracket, and a color user's manual. Now this case currently only comes in one color, black, but it comes in two different models. There is one that does not have a window, and this one, the windowed version. This case is mainly comprised of steel, but it does have plastic panels and mesh. Now the top and front panels look like they're aluminum, but in fact, they're plastic. This is a full tower case, so it's fairly large, measuring in at 535 millimeters high, 550 millimeters deep, and 235 millimeters wide. Now the weight will vary. It depends on which model. If you go with the one that has a window, it is 11.4 kilograms. The one without, though, is a little heavier at 11.9 kilograms. At the top of the case, at the front, is a power button which doubles as a power LED. Just above it is a small hard drive activity LED and a big piece of mesh which will provide excellent ventilation for the fans. Now, they do not include any fans at the top, but you can install all kinds of optional ones. Up to 3 120mm fans, or up to 3 140mm fans, or a single 200mm fan. And this case has all kinds of provision for water cooling. You can fit lots of radiators at the top. You know, anywhere from a 120 all the way up to a 420mm radiator. At the front of the case, at the very top, hidden away, are two USB 3 ports, two USB 2 ports, two audio jacks for the microphone and headphone, as well as the reset button. Plus, there are 3 5¼ drive bays. And at the bottom, there's more mesh plus extra ventilation on either side of the front panel and at the bottom. Note that there's no branding at all on this case. Now, if you want to remove this front panel, just go ahead and pull at the bottom and it will come right off. Now, they include a very large 200mm intake fan, but optionally you can install up to 2 120mm or up to 2 140mm fans, and you've got radiator options here at the front as well. You can install up to a 240mm radiator. Also, just on the inside of the front panel is a removable dust filter. This particular model has 2 windows on the left side panel, but the right side panel is plain. At the back of the case, they include a 140mm exhaust fan, but optionally you can install a 120mm fan. Also, you can install either a 120mm or a 140mm radiator here. Now, note that they've got these grooves, and that's to allow either the fan or the radiator to move up or down a little bit. Here is where the motherboard's I/O shield plate gets installed. There's extra ventilation holes and 8 ventilated expansion slots. Plus, at the bottom is where you install a standard ATX power supply, and they include 4 thumb screws, 2 on each side panel. And note that these thumb screws have these little rubber washers on them, and that's to prevent the thumb screws from scratching the panels, plus also cutting down on vibrations. Now this case fits SSI EEB ATX, Extended ATX, and Micro ATX form factor motherboards. As you can see, there is a tremendous amount of room to work on the inside, but the motherboard tray is not removable, although they do have a large hole on the motherboard tray for the cooler's retention plate, and note all of the rubber grommeted holes, and this is for routing cables. Now there is a nice bit of space behind the motherboard tray and the right side panel. I'll go over detail on that when we have a look back there. Now while there's no branding on the outside of the case, there is on the inside. They have their logo on each of these toolless drive mechanisms. There's 3 5.25-inch drives, as I mentioned before, and they have their logo here, plus on the side of the fan. Behind this are the 2 drive cages, which fits up to 7 2.5-inch drives or up to 6 3.5-inch drives, and when I remove the right side panel, I'll have a look at those. Now the windowed model comes with this power supply cover. Note the rubber grommeted holes for routing cables. There's no fancy toolless design on the expansion slots, but you know what? Thumb screws will do just fine. Now you can fit video cards that are up to 347 millimeters in length, but without the drive cages at the front. You can fit video cards that are up to 472 millimeters in length. Power supply length is around 347 millimeters, and the CPU cooler height is 193 millimeters. With the power supply cover removed, note the 6 rubber feet for the power supply to lodge on. Depending on the length of the power supply, you can fit up to 2 optional 120 millimeter fans or one 140 millimeter fan. As well, you can fit up to a 240 millimeter radiator at the bottom. With the right side panel removed, you can see the drive cages. There is 2. The one at the top houses up to 3 2.5-inch or 3 3.5-inch drives. The bottom one houses up to 4 2.5-inch or 4 3.5-inch drives. These cages come right out by removing a few thumb screws. Installing a 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch drive is really easy. Just pinch on either side of the plastic tray, slide it out. Use the included screws for installing a 2.5-inch drive, but if you're installing a 3.5-inch drive, it is as simple as bending it and placing the drive into it and then sliding it back into place. Note behind the motherboard tray, wow, look at this stuff. There's cables. You can organize everything. They have these punch outs so you can attach these Velcro tie downs that they have. They also include the plastic cable ties as well. Now, if you're wondering how much space there is behind the motherboard tray and the right side panel, it is 27 millimeters. So that will give you lots and lots of space to route all kinds of cables back here, and this is where you want them. You don't want them inside the case because, well, they look ugly and they will hinder airflow. Here they have a 2.5-inch bracket. It simply just slides into place. You install the drive on this and then mount it like so. Now you can also get another 2.5-inch bracket and put a drive down here. Now this is pretty neat. They include a 7-fan hub. Power for it is through a serial ATA 12-volt power input, and they also include this 4-pin fan lead for the CPU fan. Now this is the power supply cover, which is on the inside of the case, and in order to remove it, you'll need to take off 3 thumb screws, and they are located at the back. At the bottom, there are 6 rubber feet, and note how the case is going to be off of the surface a fair distance, and that's important, especially if you are putting it on a soft surface like carpet. You want the bottom fans to be able to do their job and keep the power supply and the case cool. Now there's 2 removable dust filters. One pulls away at the front, and there's a little bit of a trick to removing this one. If you pull it, kind of won't come out. You've got to bend it down a little bit and it will then slide right out. So it's not a perfect fit. I'm hoping that they will tweak that. It might over time wear a little bit and come out easier. But the back one for the power supply's intake fan is very easy. Just pull it out, clean it, and put it back into place. To recap, they include a 200 millimeter intake fan at the front of the case and a 140 millimeter exhaust fan at the back of the case. Now finally, let's have a listen to the cooling. If you're in the market for a very stylish, well-built, full tower case that has it all, this would definitely be it. I love the looks on this, and the feature list is just astounding. Plus, if you're into water cooling in a hardcore manner, this would be the case that you would definitely want to check out, because there is so much provision for water cooling. As well, you can install lots of optional fans, plenty of places to install drives, and on it goes. This is just an outstanding case. Overall, this is a kick-ass product. Until next time, take care.